everybody? Welcome back to yet another installment of the Fantasy Cast playoff edition. He's Ty White. I'm Lachlan McTagg. Joining us for the second time this season is our good friend Will Azzopardi, all the way from Halifax, Nova Scotia. I believe the last time Will joined us was just before Halloween, actually, when we had that funny discussion about different NFL Halloween costumes. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
first of all,
mid-season.
yeah.
It's a mid-season, yeah.
Mid-season, yeah.
It's good to have you back. How have you been? I know we saw each other. The three of us saw each other over the Christmas holidays. But how have you been since you've been back in Halifax?
Yeah, it's nice to get back out, get back into the routine. East Coast is always so nice, and the winter just as much as the summer. So it was super nice to get back out and see all the friends out here as well. So
that's awesome. Ty, what about you, man? How you holding up in Toronto?
Holding up wonderfully. Today was actually the biggest snowstorm we've had all year. They canceled classes after 4. And
I heard about that actually. Yeah, a lot of snow.
Yeah.
We
had one a few days ago.
Fest. You had one too, Will?
Yeah, I canceled a bunch of classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, today we got ours. It was pretty bad, but I like the snow. It's not too bad, but been busy a lot with calling games and doing stuff for school, but it's been great. I have the pleasure this weekend calling or doing the PA announcing for the Professional Women's Hockey League, who are doing their All-Star game out of Maple Leaf Gardens, which is pretty cool. That'll be on ESPN in the United States and TSN in Canada. But more importantly,
that's actually a huge gig though for people who don't realize. Like the PWHPA All-Star game in Canada, that's a big deal, a big draw. A lot of people go to that event and at the MAC. So huge kudos to you, my friend. Super jealous. You're gonna do great though. I know that.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
That's sick, man. That's sick.
Thanks, boys. But more importantly,
on the call.
I'm wearing a Lunenburg shirt for Will today, Nova Scotia. That's more important right now to me and this podcast. But Loch, how's Arizona? Don't imagine you got a snowstorm in the last week or so.
It's funny you say that, actually. We didn't get snow in Phoenix, obviously, but in Flagstaff, they're getting like record snow over the past couple weeks. So
what, an inch and a half, 2 inches?
You'd be surprised, man. Their single day high that they got last week was 15 inches. That's about 35 to 40 centimeters in one day.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, enough.
Well, like northern Arizona though, right? Flagstaff.
Yeah. Well, Flagstaff too sits at about 6,000-7,000 feet above sea level. So that's it. They get snow there.
Makes sense.
Anyway, yeah, it's good. Went to the basketball game against UCLA. We did not storm a court because we lost by 12 because UCLA ended the game on a 16-2 run. Still one of the best atmospheres, truly. College basketball is something else. It really it draws a massive crowd. We set a student attendance record at the game against UCLA. It was just absolutely packed. And it was
UCLA
great.
Are top ranked as well, right?
Yeah, at the time they're
like
fifth,
number 3 or something?
They were number 5.
Fifth
yeah,
ranked?
They're number 5. Yeah. So we all came out for that, and it was a heavily advertised for 2 weeks or so. Able to get tickets and whatnot.
Right.
And you've done your scouting report on UCLA for the March Madness bracket now. So there you go.
Yes, yeah, they're a proper team. They're definitely not a force.
Yeah, they're proper.
They're a force to be reckoned with for sure. But yeah, that happened. A couple hockey games this weekend ended in disappointment once again for ASU. But exciting stuff for me. I know Ty's got a lot of stuff going on. This doesn't quite rival it, but I'm doing a couple radio women's basketball calls this weekend when ASU takes on Washington State Friday night and Sunday afternoon takes on Washington. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Pac-12, baby.
Yeah.
So Pac-12.
Yeah, it'll be. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm calling it with two people. I've never done it before, and Never done 2 games in a weekend. It's usually just one and you're out of there for this, but I got lucky and got to fill 2 spots for people. So, yeah, busy week for me, busy weekend ahead as well.
Busy week for all the boys, sounds like. But
Stuff.
we got to get busy now talking about the NFL because last week, God, I mean, just about as atrocious as it gets. I mean, when you're shooting 2 for 4 for only 4 games, at least on both of our parts,
On
that's
both
pretty
of
bad.
our parts, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible. But we'll get into that right now. We're gonna be talking about obviously the divisional games and then what we think is gonna go on for the conference championships. But let's get started in order here. So on that Saturday, the first game was the Jags Chiefs. Now Jaguars obliterated the Chargers the week before that. So and the Chiefs were walking in off a bye, but there was some crazy thing that Andy Reid is like 27-3 when it comes to a bye week, or some outrageous number that he's in the win column. We all said the Chiefs were going to win that. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
I said Chiefs, but not by that much. You said it. If I'm not mistaken, Ty, you said it was going to be like a multi-score game.
What was the spread?
I don't know what the spread was, but they won by, it was 27-20.
Yeah.
The spread was, I think, close. It might have been 8, or it might have been 8. I think it might have been 8.
It's 8.5 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, Lachlan, we said it was going to be a close game, and just because Trevor Lawrence has been so hot, and Doug Peterson's a really good coach, right? And that's why they beat the Chargers, in my opinion. They're coaching. They outplayed them.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for you to say that when you're, when your OC gets fired and whatnot and tough calls on the defensive end. But I thought the Jags played very well, considering they're on the road at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
If you're a Jags fan, if you're a player on the Jags team, like, man, are you just so fired up for next year? Like, that's one of those playoff losses where you're not even like thinking about like the loss, like, damn, we could have done this, could have done that, like long off season. Like, no, you're like, these guys got to be excited for what's coming.
No, yeah, great season from the Jags overall too.
Yeah, like they had no business being there.
Made a bunch of moves in the off season that were quite questionable in a lot of eyes. Evan Engram, Christian Kirk, and those guys paid off. So they built their team and got into the playoffs. Found a new coach for what they think is their generational quarterback. So let's see how they can do next year.
That's great.
Yeah, and the first season as well too that we see Etienne and Lawrence together teamed up in the NFL, not just at Clemson, and they really didn't miss a beat, even with Etienne missing his rookie season due to the ACL. But anyway,
the most impressive thing is that they were 3-7 in week 2.
Yeah, last year was a complete write-off with Urban Meyer, basically.
Yeah, and it was Urban's fault. Why when you're on the show do we always talk about the 08 Florida Gators? Urban Meyer. But,
or something to do with them. No, I was just saying, it's like you can look back at that now and say, oh, it's easily Urban Meyer's fault. Like 100% blame goes on him. But obviously, like they got some guys, and obviously, coach is like a coach in locker room is such a huge thing. So definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. But I liked your point about the offseason moves because all of their top guys this year were offseason. All their top receivers were offseason moves. Literally every one of them. And it paid off for them. But like Jags, like you said, Locke, they have nothing to be ashamed about. Should be rocking into next year. And the Chiefs just played better. But the thing most notably out of that game is that Patrick Mahomes suffered a high ankle sprain and Chad Henne had to come in.
Yes, that was a huge storyline. And it's going to dominate.
Great, by the way, actually.
Yeah, Chad Henne.
Great, by the way.
Yeah. Well, why's he always coming in playoff games and win it for him? Doesn't that just annoy you?
Yeah. It's yeah, it does. You know what? It just shows you that, like, yeah, Mahomes is this like awesome quarterback and obviously, but there's clearly like an amazing system in place for someone to succeed. You know, like clearly.
Brock Purdy, man.
He's getting some help.
Brock
exactly.
Purdy,
Exactly. exactly.
But clearly, Andy Reid's a genius, is what you're saying, and that's
100%.
absolutely true.
And to Lachlan's point, so is Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah,
Like 100%.
100%.
These guys are probably the two best coaches in the NFL right now.
No, I agree. And what actually and looking at the remaining teams in the league right now, what does that tell you about coaching in the NFL? That you need a good coach to win. You have Andy Reid, you have Nick Sirianni on Philadelphia.
Oh, sure you do.
Who's doing amazing. You have Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor's a great coach, yeah.
Yeah. He outcoached the Bills last week, 125%. And then as you just mentioned, the Niners. Like, fantastic coaching all around. But we'll go to the next game now. So Chiefs, 3 for 3. All right on that one. We only have one person who was right on this next game, and he didn't even predict last week. It's Will. Giants versus the Eagles. I think we owe you a huge apology. We've had some pretty disgusting takes this year, namely Ramondre Stevenson. That one was more on me, that you could sit him for the majority of the year. He was the RB6 this year, RB7. But the Eagles destroyed the Giants.
Yeah, for lack of a better word. I really didn't want to go against the Eagles because I just know how dynamic that offense is. And defense, like they got just a bunch of dogs on that defensive end too, man. But I wanted the upset. The Giants were another feel-good team that you could root for, man. Like the Jags and Giants, like they have nothing to be ashamed of.
No.
They like the fact that the Giants got to Philadelphia, had to go through Minnesota too. Like it's incredible what they've accomplished this year. But again, the Eagles really went out there and proved that they are 100% a very, very legit football team and a very legitimate contender that needs to be taken seriously.
100%. On the Giants note there, it's always tough when you see a team get destroyed like that, because it's always like, okay, like, yeah, you're on the road and it's like a big playoff game, but you don't want to see it like a team get to the point where 38-7 is just not even a contest at that point. That was tough to see from the Giants, the way they played, and a lot of people were rallying behind the Giants. But to Lachlan's point, Eagles just played awesome and are probably, if not the most well-rounded team in the NFL from all facets of their team. Like pretty much there's not a single weak spot like in that whole roster. Yeah, they're gonna test this loaded San Fran team to every single measure of their capabilities this weekend.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like like you both mentioned, Giants, such a feel-good story. Obviously, they couldn't compete with the Eagles, like you mentioned, Will, better literally everywhere on the field. But it's impressive what the Giants were able to do, like regardless getting there with Dable, another fantastic coach, like, and actually making people think, should we keep Daniel Jones or not? And the fact that they're having that conversation under a season where they went 9-7-1, I think it was, something like that. That's impressive on its own.
I will say, though, too, to the Giants, to your argument potentially about their record, how many close primetime games did they play? Not even primetime games, but how many close, like, divisional games do they play? Because to go 9-7-1 with the Commanders, Eagles, and Cowboys in your division
this year, yeah.
Like, that's a tough, like, I know a couple of years ago they were a complete laughingstock and it was hilarious. But
yeah,
to come out with a positive record when you have the Eagles, who are a 2-loss team, and the Cowboys, a great season from them, and then you're just fighting neck and neck with the Commanders. I mean, I don't hate at all what the Giants have done this season, and they've, depending on what they do, off-season moves, how much money they give Daniel Jones, if they keep Daniel Jones, which I think he's made a very strong argument for sticking around in New York.
100%.
But he doesn't exactly have the most receiving weapons either. I mean, like, it's not exactly his fault. If you get him exactly players, you never know. But and it's incredible too, that division, guys. Looking back, I remember when we were in like grade 12, they were called the NFC least. Because they
were.
Yeah.
They were horrible.
Because they were, yeah. Very true.
They completely turned that around.
Talking about like really bad divisions. and for the Jags next year is that division sucks. The AFC South is garbage.
Yeah, exactly. The AFC
Yeah.
South
Houston
is
sucks. Houston
And the
is
NFC
just
and the NFC South. Let's not forget about
both the
yeah,
that
South.
division too. That's
both South divisions are really bad right now.
Yeah,
Very
doing
true.
Southern football.
Titans are just gonna keep playing scared football, and that won't win them anything.
the Titans need to
The
rebuild.
Colts, yeah, 100%.
Culture disaster.
Yeah, they're at that.
Who knows with the Colts? Yeah, who knows?
The
with
Colts also need to rebuild and trade their top guys to get good draft stock pieces and whatnot. Like
The Texans have sucked since 2019. Division's garbage. That should be Jacksonville's like that, dude. Like they think like Tennessee can compete because they, to be fair, they did have some injuries this year. But like Will said, I don't think they're like even this close to winning a Super Bowl. They're so far off.
the closest they were was last year when they got upset at home in the divisional round against Cincinnati.
And it's one thing making it to the playoffs and just like beating a 1 or 2 or even maybe a 3 seats like 1 year. That's one whole thing, and then actually like making a legitimate run to the bowl is actually a completely different thing. So I don't think they've made a completely legitimate run yet. That 1 year when they were in the finals against the Chiefs, the conference finals, they got pretty much handled and dominated the whole game. So
yeah, but anyways, that's the Giants Eagles. Will was right about that, so Will's 2 for 2. Loch and I were 1 for 2 in our picks. Then we're all about to take a notch here. Bills Bengals, and first Lachlan. Actually, why don't you take this away as the biggest Bills fan out of any of us here?
Yeah, that was tough to watch, man. This whole season, it just felt like they were building towards something really big, and they were going to get there. Injuries, you could really see in that game how their injuries on the defensive side of the ball really were starting to add up and get to them. Their secondary is pretty banged up, and obviously the absence of Von Miller was very, very
huge.
Prevalent there. And even what they were, top 5, top 3 in pressure rate in the NFL before Von Miller got hurt, and when Von Miller got hurt, they were like 28th. That's night and day with one player out, right? All credit
to the
Bengals.
Playoffs too, guys. Like Von Miller really play.
Well, yeah, he was an integral part of the Rams Super Bowl run.
Exactly.
To have a 1-2 punch with him and Aaron Donald on either side, that's a nightmare for anyone. Like, you're not getting around that.
Mm-hmm.
No, and back on Broncos too, and they were really good in the playoffs. He was like one of their best players in the playoffs every time. So
yeah,
literally won them the Super Bowl. Like it was pretty much him who won them.
Yeah, honestly,
I'll give the Bengals a lot of credit here. Their coaching was phenomenal. Their game plan was phenomenal. They outwilled the Bills in every single play on offense. They honestly couldn't be stopped in a stadium where the Bills have been unstoppable in Josh Allen's tenure as a Buffalo Bill. Like in Orchard, like he owns Orchard Park in the playoffs. Like that is, you go there and you don't expect to win in the playoffs when you play there. And, like I've been saying this, like as long as they have home field, they're fine, right? As long as they have home field, they're going to get it done. But on a day where the defense stepped up like tremendously and pressured Josh Allen, dominated that O-line. And then on the other end, the supposedly banged up O-line that was going to cause the Bengals problems played phenomenal. They dominated the run game. They outwilled them in every area. So credit where credit's due. They beat the Bills through and through. And that's the one consolation for me over years past is obviously last year, the controversial ending in overtime in Kansas City. You're 13 seconds away from winning a game, and then, they kick a field goal, one of the most miraculous things that's ever happened in playoff history, and then you go to overtime, you lose a toss, and your season's over after they score a touchdown the other end. This was different. This was one team flat out beating another.
Great point. And the home field advantage thing, too. That was the first time They lost this year at home, apart from the Vikings thing, where they should have won that Vikings game. That was that crazy ending with a Josh Allen fumble. Josh Allen's never lost a home playoff game until then. And
The other thing too, I
yeah,
will say, I know everyone was talking to about, if Josh Allen doesn't turn the ball over, then they win. Well, he was pretty efficient with the football, just couldn't convert.
Yeah, some games you just can't score.
yeah, it was an all-around bad game. But like you said, like Zach Taylor, we talked about Zach Taylor before. Bro, that was a defensive masterclass. I have never seen a team play the Bills that well. All the times that the Bills lose, it's usually some like debacle thing that happens at the end in a shootout. Yeah, like you even what we just talked about Minnesota.
Because the Chiefs D line is flat out better than the Bengals D line.
Yeah, no, and
but the Chiefs D line in any but I'm saying in like past years, the Chief I would take the Chiefs D line over the Bengals D line, and I've never seen Josh Allen pressured or sacked that much and not had any receivers open. Because you think usually when the Chiefs get to him, it's usually man coverage. Usually one of the guys, Gabe Davis, Diggs, or Dawson Knox potentially, maybe Isaiah McKenzie. I don't know who's there. Is open either across the middle or sideline. But this game, there was just nothing.
Yeah. The best defense I've ever seen played against Josh Allen since his like rookie year, I guess, when he had not a horrible, but he didn't have a great rookie year. Played them so well. The blitzing was amazing. They totally threw him off guard. They gave him looks that he wasn't familiar with. And like you said, I have not seen the Bills.
DJ Reader inside is a run stuffer.
Run stuffer.
Yeah.
Dude, the Bengals are looking mighty good.
It's DJ so Reader,
sad. Like, hey, DeMar Hamlin was there. He was at the game.
DeMar Hamlin went into the locker room at halftime and spoke to the guys. Like, that's, yeah.
So, so unfortunate.
Definitely an emotional and tough loss for the Bills. At home, too.
Absolutely.
Definitely not easy, but.
And the Diggs thing, too. Hey, guys, they're like, he left the locker room early.
Oh, yeah, that was, yeah.
He wants to win, man. He's mad. I understand it. What are they 3 years in, 4 years in now? And they've gone to the AFC Championship game once. They've lost in the divisional round back-to-back years. Like at some point, like because that Chiefs game wasn't even in the AFC Championship. That was in the AFC divisional game.
Yeah.
That was the exact same game last year, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like the AFC Championship game because of how crazy it was.
Yeah,
so I understand because it like a lot of people thought at this point year 2 year 3 you're there, you're right there, you have what 12 13 14 wins in a season, you're going to be a contender, and they've fallen short, and I understand. It's just it sucks that the media has to dip their toe into it and stir this thing more than I think it needs stirring, in my opinion. Because
100%. Sure.
And Eli
there's also
Apple.
a reason. Yeah,
there's also a reason. Toes. Have you seen that? Like Diggs obviously posted to his social media being like, "Do I get mad? Yeah, I'm an athlete." Blah blah blah. And then Eli Apple goes and replies on Twitter.
Yeah, see you in Cancun. Or whatever
see you in Cancun. Just like who gave Eli Apple the mic? Why does this guy get to speak? Bro, why does he
the worst part is like if Diggs didn't drop that end zone ball on the double move, Eli Apple shouldn't have been talking because I don't know. Anyway,
Eli Apple has a field day on Twitter, man. After like knocking guys out, he just has a field day on Twitter after.
Guy's a jokester, man.
There's a reason why the NFL offseason is so long.
Guy's a jokester.
Okay, but Bills lose to the Bengals. We all got that one wrong. We all thought the Bills were going to win. I honestly thought they were going to win, or at least make it a lot closer than it was. Not an outright victory. Final game. Very good game. Niners Cowboys. And this one was it was a defensive battle. 19-12 final score.
100%.
And I think I know Cowboys fans are pissed as usual. They at least defensively, they played a phenomenal game. Offensive side of the ball, not so much. Bro, what was that last play? Did you guys see that? What the heck were they running on that last play? Zeke was the center.
I don't even want to begin to unravel that.
And the receiver they threw it to got
totally
rocked.
worth it, to be honest. Oh, yeah, no, he got popped. Yeah, he got popped.
The
guy was lining him up for 10 yards, man. That was lining him up.
The corner was waiting for that, and Dak like threw a suicide back.
Dak is the worst, man.
But dude, that was crazy. I was obviously
you can win with this like with a quarterback like Dak. You can win a Super Bowl, but you just need a much better team around you than what they have right now.
Yeah, or at least but one thing too. I mean,
but the weird thing is like the Cowboys. Yeah, the weird thing is they had one of the best 1-2 punches at running back. Their receivers have been very good all year long. They have a consistently good O-line. Their defensive end is great. They have Micah Parsons, who forces QBs to scramble. Their secondary is pretty decent. They got pretty good safeties. Like, it's not like that. Like, I just don't like, everyone's pointing to Dak and like, oh, they got to surround him with a better team. Like, what more in the salary cap era can you really afford at this point if you're the Cowboys?
That's a good point. But part of it too, like not the whole thing, obviously, but Pollard went down with an injury, which greatly affects your run, because Zeke wasn't the guy taking the ball. Bro, Zeke wasn't the guy going full length of the field and scoring a touchdown. It was you dump it off to Pollard for a 20-yard reception, then he bowls forward for the run. You throw a couple times, you're at the 3-yard line, and you let Zeke punch it in. And that wasn't an option for them. I forget when he went down, but there was a significant amount of time left in that game. But yeah, I mean, everyone puts it on Dak. It's not just on Dak. It's on the offense.
No, it's not.
It's so easy. It's so easy to criticize Dak Prescott for that game. But you also have to give a lot of credit to the 49ers for how they schemed against the Cowboys. The 49ers, in my opinion, showed why, again, they're for real. And because a lot of people haven't been talking about them just simply because of Brock Purdy. But this team, if they have Jimmy Garoppolo, no one bats an eye at the fact if you say, oh yeah, I think the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. Like, we're not, like, before, if you said that coming into this game, if you said that, people would be like, dude, no shot. Like, I don't see them. But like,
that's a good point, Loch. Like, I think like if the Niners had Garoppolo this entire time, there's a pretty good chance they're still playing in the NFC Championship game.
Yes, very, 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 100%. Very good chance, because their run game is incredible. Their offensive line is good. They have one of the best tight ends in football.
They just have like literally a perfect situation in every like facet of that player. For example, Purdy, like that position is complemented in every single way. Offensive line, defense, running backs, receivers. Like there's just like elite players at every position. There's no way you can't succeed. And then also George Kittle blocking when you're running. It's like, what? Like,
they arguably have, Will, like you said, like almost honestly like a Pro Bowler at every position. They arguably have like the best of something at each position. They have Debo and Christian McCaffrey. They have Trent Williams, who's the best tackle in football.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Trent Williams. Yeah.
Dog. Oh, like, maybe not Purdy, not the best. Yeah. They're deep. Fred Warner's the best linebacker.
For sure.
Nick Bosa.
Toronto.
Nick Bosa
too. Yeah.
Bosa, Armstead. I mean, they have so many fantastic players. But like on the flip side, the Cowboys are just, once again, I was so impressed. I need to give them props because Marcus Lawrence, he had friggin' an amazing game. And well, I remember like all the way back, people don't talk about Lawrence as much, but he used to be an X factor on Madden, or like he would pop up in like the Superstar KO game.
I know he was always like a questionable X factor player. Like,
yeah, I know.
Should he have gotten one?
He's like, why did he have one?
But he's good though. He's a good player. Though.
He played really. Micah, obviously, he's fantastic. Leighton Vander Esch had a solid game. The Cowboys should have had, like, there was Trayvon Diggs should have had an interception that game, but yeah, that was one of the first games that Brock Purdy didn't actually win them the game. Didn't go out and win it for them. So very interesting. But we all said I think the 49ers would win that one. We all got that one right. So
Yeah, that was the only redeeming thing about Sunday was that the Cowboys lost too.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
yes, you're not them boys anymore. And Stephen A. Smith had a field day, and the media loved it. But yeah, now we're moving on to championship weekend on the flip side of things. And we have a rematch of last year's in the AFC. Let's talk about that first. We got Chiefs and Bengals, and Chiefs are hosting it in Arrowhead. By no means an easy place to win. Why don't we let our guest go first? Will, what do you think about this game? Who do you think is going to come out on top?
Okay. I think it's a very interesting game. I think Burrow and Bengals are coming in with a lot of confidence. And the Chiefs are coming in with a little bit less confidence. One, because Mahomes is injured. Two, because they're slightly, obviously, lost to the Bengals at this stage last year, so have to overcome that hurdle. And they also know that Bengals are coming for them as top team in the AFC, so they got to defend Arrowhead. And I think they're going to. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to. I think Mahomes is going to come out. I don't think he's going to be that affected by the injury, to be honest with you. I think he's going to come out and play steady. Maybe limiting his running and wild plays at the start. No, but I think Andy Reid is going to find a way to break through that Bengals defense. I think Chiefs offensive line is going to hold up. I think Kelsey's going to have a big game, more so in the air than in the end zone. I think they'll get a lot of how they spread around the touchdowns, Kansas City. So I think Joe Burrow has a good game. I think it's a high-scoring game. Maybe we're looking like 38-28 for Kansas City.
Good stuff. Loch, what do you think?
I'm going on the flip side here. I'm taking the Bengals on the road once again. I don't know. I think that the Bengals are a good team that have been overlooked because everyone wanted that Bills-Chiefs rematch once again. And I think right now that entire team is just playing villain. They went into unfamiliar playoff territory and beat a team that is supposedly unbeatable at home. And they did that the year prior to against these very same Kansas City Chiefs, where they shocked them on home field at Arrowhead. Because before that, the Chiefs have been pretty rock solid in that stadium. And I think this is both D-lines are going to try and enforce their will. Both defenses are going to try and enforce their will. I think the Bengals come up with more defensive schemes and try and get Mahomes moving. Because I know in the last couple of years, the Chiefs haven't been the most blitz team because you leave guys in single coverage. But without Tyreek Hill there, I think you have to force guys to maybe you give up leaving Juju or McCall Hardman open rather than, obviously Tyreek Hill when he was there. And you kind of have that double spy on Kelsey while bringing pressure simultaneously. And I think if there's two quarterbacks that are against each other, like Burrow and Mahomes, I would much rather in this game take Burrow scrambling than Mahomes. And I think that's ultimately going to come down to it is how much can Mahomes withstand with obviously his injury and Burrow coming into this game fully healthy.
Great points by the both of you. So coming into this game, Burrow is 3-0 versus Mahomes in his career, which is a pretty shocking stat actually. But it is the Chiefs. They are at home. This happened last year. We talked about this earlier, Lachlan. It's tough. We talked about this with the Chargers and Jaguars. It's tough to beat a team twice in the same year, or twice at in any capacity, and especially that being it's tough to beat a team.
I see
twice.
A Ravens Bengals played 3 times this year.
Yeah. So anything.
Imagine how hard it is to try and scheme against that team for the 3rd time,
exactly.
Especially with I'll put yourself in John Harbaugh's boots, going into that game. Whatever was going on with Lamar, who cares? But he's not playing, right? So going into that game, you have to prep for a team that's played you twice already, and you have a very limited backup quarterback. That's very hard to do.
Absolutely. And if you look at it from last year's standpoint, same coaching staff, same offensive schemes, It's
No,
this
exactly.
almost the same teams apart from Tyreek Hill.
It's so hard to come up with these like amazing offensive plays year in, year out, game in, game out sometimes. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
wild.
So it's tough to play teams over and over again. That being said, I like both of yours. And actually, Lachlan and Will, like you actually had me think in my head. I was pretty 50-50 up until this point. But I think this might be the first time I've ever picked this person to win on the Fantasy Cast. I think the Bengals are going to win on the road. And it pains me to say that because I'm not the biggest Joe Burrow fan. But I don't like the Chiefs either as a as a Chargers fan, right? So this is like a lose-lose
True.
regardless. I don't care who comes out, but I think it's going to be a very good game. I actually don't think it'll be a shootout, only because most
Okay.
games this year that we said have been a shootout actually haven't been. It's turned out to be the defenses that come through, and so far it has been great defenses that have won the games in the playoffs. I think the Bengals defense are going to actually play pretty well against the Chiefs. They did such a great job last week. The Chiefs are still going to do well. They're still going to move the ball. They're still going to score. Mahomes' ankle won't be a huge story, I don't think. I just think the Bengals outplay them. Not necessarily outcoach them, but I think they come out and win in the end and go to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. That tastes like vinegar.
The reason why the Chiefs are so hard to beat is one because you said it, Ties. You either win a team by outplaying them or outcoaching them, and it's so hard to outcoach Andy Reid in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it leaves you just to outplay them, and when they have one of the best teams in the league too, to outplay them and outcoach them is extremely difficult. So
that's a fantastic point. That's such a
They
good
also
point.
did that against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo last week, I might add. But
Yeah, they
true.
completely
They did.
Zach Taylor completely
McDermott does not get
100%.
outcoached very often. I will say that's
No, he does not. He does not.
So it's
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
it should be a
Last
fantastic
week
game.
the
though.
Bengals.
It should be an unreal game between and like I mean I can appreciate that as a football fan. Should be a fantastic game. Arrowhead should be rocking, but I don't know. It's just friggin' Burrow. Nothing seems to phase that guy.
It's
Nothing
true.
seems to phase him. He
Weird.
never can. But he
Coming
never
out of
also.
college, these like all these quarterbacks coming out of college these days, like a Bryce Young's like first game in the NFL, like is not going to be an atmosphere that he cannot handle. Like
Absolutely.
this guy has played in like 110,000 screaming fans at the Georgia Dome for the SEC championship game. Like this guy has played in like so for all these guys like especially Purdy to come in like this too. Iowa State plays in massive bowl games and stuff. These guys have been playing huge games in front of hundreds of thousands of people for years. So like it's not that big of a jump for these guys.
No, that's a fantastic point. I mean, Burrow played in the Big Ten and the SEC, and it doesn't get too much louder than Death Valley in Louisiana. So it's
No, exactly.
nothing phases him. And the thing I saw this in an interview too, he never considers himself to be like an underdog, which is, I mean, I think he is, as much as I don't like him, the team he plays for, I respect his mentality. I respect him as a player. I mean, he's probably top 3 in the NFL. So,
But the real
Very
question
exciting
is though,
yeah,
can he do it on a rainy night in Stoke?
I don't think he can.
I don't know if
I don't
anyone
think
can.
he can. I don't think anyone in the world can ever do that.
No. Let's go on to our second game of the weekend here. NFC Championship. This is another fantastic game.
Oh, it's gonna be a really good game.
Niners Eagles. Ty, I'll start with you.
Sure.
Who do you have in this game in Philly?
So tough. Well, Will mentioned this before too for both rosters. These are the two most well-rounded teams in the NFL by far, in my opinion. Like not even close. Even looking at the Chiefs, player by player, not even close.
No, for sure, yeah.
It's because it's the defenses for both these teams that really separate them from the Chiefs and Bengals.
Absolutely. So that being said, this should be a defensive showdown. Not going to be that high. Like we saw just last week what happened when the 49ers play a great defense. They put up 19 points and squeak away with a victory. Not squeak away, but not convincingly win that game. at least not from the offensive standpoint. I think it's going to be fairly low scoring. That being said, Philadelphia is a very hard place to play. Best team in the NFL this year. And it's a close one. But I'm going to stick with my original prediction with the team I said would come out of the NFC before, the 49ers. And I'm going to say the 49ers are going to come into Philadelphia and upset them because I think they are technically the underdog. I don't think it's because of Brock Purdy. I think he has a good game. But I think the Eagles throw a lot at him defensively. I think it's the Niners defense that wins them the game. Absolutely. Namely, Fred Warner. They play so well. He's like going back in NFL history, he's like a Derrick Brooks. He flies all over the field and can do anything. He's like a Swiss Army knife at linebacker. He's the best in the NFL. I think they win the game defensively. I think Bosa gives that offensive line a hard time. And I think this is one of the best defensive NFL games like of all time, in my opinion. Or it should be, at least on paper. But I have the 49ers winning this one.
Will, how about you? What do you got, Will?
It obviously, like you said, just like going to be a fantastic game. I'm leaning towards the Eagles just because they're at home. I think it matters so much at this point. And Lincoln Financial is obviously like a complete dome. So there's not many teams winning over there, especially like in the playoffs. I think San Francisco's defense will not have anywhere near the same success they did last week. I think it's going to be similar score to Bengals Chiefs. It's going to be somewhere in the 30s and 20s. I don't think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think both these offenses can strike very quickly, whether that's Jalen Hurts with his legs or Deebo Samuel's legs, McCaffrey's legs. There's so many ways that you can have an instant score in this game. So many skilled players, so many different positions. So I think it's going to be interesting. Almost going to be back and forth. I'm honestly kind of feeling like a complete, as NCAA would call it, an all-time classic, or an ESPN instant classic.
Instant classic.
I'm calling for one right now. And I was just saying, rematch of Iowa State Oklahoma. Well, yeah.
Which was an instant classic.
Yeah, it was 42-41, yeah.
Yeah, and they lost on like a 2-point conversion, I think.
Brock Purdy had 5 touchdowns, and they went for 2, but didn't get it.
Iowa State, Oklahoma. That's a great point. Funny you mentioned that. Just to quickly before you go, Lachlan, though.
But I got Eagles, though.
Eagles. So I like changing it up a bit, Loch, just before you go. But you mentioned the thing, and obviously Jalen Hurts. That's why the Eagles are so good this year is Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. But Hurts wins the games with his legs. If there's anyone in the league.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah, that can compete, though, with those legs and give him a hard time.
It's Warner. It's
Fred Warner. Look what he did last week. He literally guarded CeeDee Lamb. He was one-on-one with CeeDee Lamb, and he was like at the line.
He's guarding receivers,
Crazy.
Yeah, he's out here guarding receivers,
Absolutely.
No, he's awesome, Warner. No question.
Loch?
You're
the tiebreaker here, buddy.
Another close call. I as much as I love the 49ers and love their roster, I've loved watching all their games this year and the rise of Brock Purdy in the NFL. I have to go with the Eagles. And the only thing that separates it for me is the secondary. I truly think the Eagles secondary has a leg up on the Niners secondary, slightly. And I think that their ability to cover the deep ball is going to be a little bit more important because obviously, you can get to Brock Purdy. And I think if Brock Purdy's legs versus Hurts's legs, I think Hurts has that battle won quite convincingly. I think this will be a semi-high scoring game. And I say that because I think the Niners are going to score roughly the same amount of points as they did last week. I think the Niners are going to find more ways to crack the Eagles defense a little bit more than they did the Cowboys last week. But I think the Eagles are just going to throw so much at this Niners defense that it's going to be a lot to handle. And I think there's always going to be one option that's open on probably 85% of the plays they run.
So going back then, who's everyone's Super Bowl? So my Super Bowl is Bengals Niners. Will's, yours is
Mine would be Chiefs Eagles.
Yours is Chiefs Eagles, and Lachlan, yours is
Eagles Bengals.
Eagles Bengals.
Okay.
So none of us have the same.
I'm predicting it's all different. Yeah. That's good.
All different.
As much as I want a Brock Purdy versus Joe Burrow Super Bowl, I don't think it can happen against the Eagles defense on home field. I think something miraculous would have to happen, like a miraculous defensive play, like something like a fumble recovery touchdown for the Niners defense or something, or like some of their special team stuff they pulled against Green Bay a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't even want to.
Yeah, sorry, Will, I forgot.
No,
but you know what I mean.
You're
I feel
right,
like,
though, because that's how they. No, you're right, because that's how they find a way to win. They play hard on special teams.
If they don't find that, then I think the Eagles take it simply just based on star power.
Yeah,
these two games right here, both these conference championship games are games that could very, very well be decided by one huge punt return, kickoff return, fumble on the return.
Yep.
Something massive like that are huge swingers in these kind of games. So it'll be interesting to see if anything happens there.
That's what bothers me too. Like the Bengals, they didn't deserve to be in this game. They should have lost to Baltimore with friggin' Tyler Huntley at quarterback.
They were close to losing to Baltimore. They were close to losing.
Dude, if it wasn't a 2-yard quarterback sneak where Huntley throws his arms up in the air and Hubbard catches it and runs 90 yards.
Even if the Ravens don't even score any points there.
Then it's a fumble. Then it's a fumble recovery on the 1-yard line for
Cincinnati.
Even
say that the Ravens don't go for it, or the Ravens just don't get it on 4th down. Basically, the Bengals had the ball. They had to go to full field, and they were struggling to move the ball at that point. The Bengals. So there was no reason or indication saying that they were going to go score a touchdown.
Yeah,
that just completely changed the whole game. Ruins the whole game.
And that's why also I think the Bengals are going to win this week. Well, the Bills played very bad defensively as well. They didn't have a good defensive game whatsoever. No pressure there. The Chiefs don't have a particularly amazing defense. So I think that's why I think Burrow's going to beat them. Also, but if Burrow makes the Super Bowl, I think he's going to lose again to, like I said, to the Niners. We haven't even gotten to that yet. I guess I just kind of spoiled my prediction for the week after that. We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but that's pretty much been this episode. Went over all divisional games and gave you our picks for who we think is going to win the championship games this week. They're on Sunday this week, both of them. And two of the greatest games of the NFL season so far coming down to this. They should both be very close.
These could easily be like 2 separate Super Bowls.
Yeah. No, yeah, these are 2 probably one of the best matchups of the year, if not the best, 100%.
So
I'm very, very looking forward to these games.
Should be amazing. But before we go,
that's what it's all about.
We have a question to ask Will for the Packers fan. Is Aaron coming back next year? Or do you feel the love
already?
Sorry.
Whether or not I feel it or not, and whether or not the organization feels it or not, from my point of view, I have not seen enough from him to where from this point we move on with him.
For Jordan Love, you mean? For Jordan Love.
Yeah, for Jordan Love, yeah. Obviously, you throw the kitchen sink at Rodgers to obviously keep him in Green Bay, but ultimately his ego controls his decision. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, I want him to come back. We're a better team when he's back, but we'll see, man. All I know is that Devontae is regretting his choice.
Yeah. So to answer your question, the Chargers should definitely fire Brandon Staley. All right. Okay. That's great. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in to this episode of the Fantasy Cast. We'll be back next week to recap what should be 2 fantastic games. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.